Hi, it's Mr. B. This is the sixth video in the Delta Dart series of videos. Nice to see you again. What we're going to do is we're going to do final assembly. There's one little thing that was not included in the last video, video 5, and we were leaving it to let it set up to dry. We're going to do this last thing. I talked about it at the end of video 5. There needs to be a little hook type device in the back of the airplane here, because the rubber band that is our source of power that's going to make this propeller spin, which will give us the thrust that we need for our plane to fly. Let's slip this on real quick. You notice the propeller has a little hook up front, and that's where the rubber band goes. And yes, your rubber band is one long piece like this, like spaghetti. It's not tied together. It's supposed to be like this. We'll talk about this in a minute, a couple minutes actually. And to hook this onto the airplane, it's real simple up front. There's a little hook in that propeller shaft there. However, when we get back to the end of the airplane, there's nothing to hook it onto. Like there's something missing. And yeah, there is. They talked about in the video a pin or a little hook or something. And if you ask me, it should have been included in the kit, but it wasn't. But that's okay. We're going to go ahead and make something. Most of the classes have already made this. I'm just adding this to make sure my video set is complete for when I do this project again. So I'm going to go through it kind of quickly because it's real straightforward. Those of you that already have the hook on here, you're going to be able to skip ahead in the video where I'm going to talk about installing the propeller and installing the rubber band, and then we're going to get into how do we make this thing fly? How do we wind up the propeller just the right amount, and how do we throw it and we get it to fly? But first, we've got to get this little hook on here. I'm going to switch my camera down towards my project board. All right, and you can see I don't need much to get this last little part done. You should have a couple of scraps of balsa wood. Remember I said keep your scraps, never throw them away. You never know when you're going to need them. This is a perfect case. Just going to need these scraps of balsa wood. Your ruler, all the kits came with a ruler, so you'll have one of those in your kit. Pair of scissors, okay? And we are going to need a little bit of glue, all right? I think you'll find this to be very straightforward. So what we're going to do, and I'll show it to you on a completed airplane, and honestly, it doesn't show up really great. But you see this part right here? Okay, that's what we're going to make. And if you notice, it's just 3 pieces of balsa wood stacked up. And the 2 on the top are a little bit longer than the one on the bottom, so it leaves a little gap there. And that gap is just perfect for catching the other end of this rubber band. So one end of it is hooked up to the propeller, and the other end of it will be hooked up to the little hook that we're getting ready to build in the back. See that? That's a pretty good picture. All right. So how do we build that little gadget? Well, it's real simple. I don't think you'll find this very challenging at all. So down to the board. All right. We're going to use the metric side of the ruler, the centimeter side, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to this one goes up to 30 centimeters. We're just working down in here. We're going to make some very small pieces. Centimeters are a lot easier to work with rather than me telling you to make it 1 1/4 or 1 5/8 or something like that. We're just going to go with millimeters and centimeters. The really small marks are centimeters, or millimeters, and the larger tick marks where they're marked off 1, 2, 3, 4, those are centimeters, all right? So what we're going to do, we're going to take a piece of wood, and we need 2 pieces of wood that are 4 centimeters. So we just line the wood up with the ruler. One end is on 0, and the other end out to 4. We'll just make a little pencil mark. And we'll cut it right on that mark. Now this does not have to be super precise like the other cuts we've been making. So I'm not even going to worry about sanding it down to perfect fit. That is really close to 4 centimeters, and that is going to be just fine for what we're doing here. And then I'm going to take another one. I'm going to take that little scrap that I just created when I cut. And look, it's just, I'm going to cut just that little bit off. That's 4 centimeters. See that one end? It's at 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 centimeters. I'm going to cut that guy. Okay, we got 2 pieces that are 4 centimeters. Now we're going to cut one piece that is 3 centimeters. And I'm just going to line it up at the 0, go out to 3, 1, 2, 3, put a mark there. See, I marked it right at 3, 1, 2, 3. Real simple, 3 centimeters. Cut it. All right, now I got my 3 pieces. Don't need the ruler anymore. Don't need the pencil. I just need these pieces and my glue. And all we're going to do now is we're going to make a sandwich, just stacking these pieces one on top of another. So the 2 4mm pieces are going to be stacked up. I'm going to put some glue to hold them together. And then I'm going to take the 3mm piece and stack it on the top. That's it. Real simple. Just line up these ends on the one end, and you'll see we have that piece I showed you on that finished plane a minute ago. 3 pieces stacked up. The bottom one is short, so it creates that little hook area for the rubber band. So just let's glue these together. Won't take much glue. We never want to use a ton of glue. I'm going to raise this up a little bit. Because you use a lot of glue, it makes a mess, and it takes a really long time to dry. Really small amount, spread it out. These are the 2 4mm pieces, 4 centimeter, I'm sorry. Just line them up like so, and give them a little bit of a squeeze. Put some pressure on them, because remember, all glue works better when it's under a little bit of pressure. There we go. They're my first 2 pieces. So those are the 2 4mm pieces glued together. Come on, autofocus. You can do better than that. All right. Luckily, this is very simple. Now I'm going to take the 3mm piece, 3 centimeter. I keep saying millimeter instead of centimeter. I apologize. Everything should come out of my mouth centimeter, not millimeter. I'm just going to stack the third one, the 3 centimeter, on top of the 2 4s that I've already glued together. And again, just real simple. Don't overthink this. I know when I'm teaching in class, students are like, oh, can you go back and do that again? I didn't see how you did that. And this is really simple. I'm not just saying that. And it's really sticky. It's sticking to my fingers a bit. But I'm going to just line up the ends on this one end and put it together. That's it. I'm done. Pretty simple. All right? So now we have that piece that we're looking for with that little gap there. So this is just 3 pieces of balsa wood, 4 centimeter and 4 centimeter sandwiched together, and then a 3 centimeter one on the top. And it gives us that little stack of little balsa wood and a little bit short here, and it creates that hook. Now, to put this on the plane is extremely simple. We just are going to glue it on the underside of the wing, and we want the 3 centimeter piece to be on the bottom because we need that hook. We need the short part on the bottom so we have that little gap there that will catch the rubber band. All right? And the way we do that, again, don't overthink it. It really is simple. If you're saying to yourself, wow, it can't be this simple, well, it actually is. I was pretty proud of this solution because I was like, what are the kids going to use to make this? I don't know what they have at home. So I just put glue on that 3 centimeter piece, and I'm gluing it down right on the center line. And I just press it down a little bit, make sure it's lined up. I had to turn it so I could use my right hand. I'm not good with my left hand at all. Press it down in place, and there we go. That's what we wanted. Now we do have to let that sit for a little while. This video is going to continue. I'm going to talk about doing final assembly. That means the propeller, the rubber band, and getting it all put on there. So if you just glued that piece together and put it on your airplane, this is a good time for you to pause the video for at least 15 minutes. You want this little piece you just put on to be stuck on really well before you proceed, okay? So pause it for like 15 minutes, even longer is better, because when we put the rubber band around there, it's gonna put some tension on that. We don't want it to come off. So pause the video, come back in 15, 20 minutes, and then just resume the video, okay? Okay, hi, you're back. If you had to pause, welcome back. Like I said, we're going to talk about final assembly. So here is a completed Delta Dart as far as all the balsa wood work and assembly work of the wings and elevator and all that good stuff. This one looks like it's got a little bent up. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so yeah, this is actually. So here we go, all right? Should be finished. Last thing we did was put on that little hook, and you see the gap on it. You can see it very clearly in that. That's how it should be, okay? Now, the only thing you're gonna need to finish up this plane is you're gonna need your propeller, and you're going to need your rubber band. And yes, the rubber band is a straight piece. It is not a continuous circle. We're gonna make it a continuous circle in just a minute. I'm gonna show you how to do that. Now, the way this works is the propeller goes on the front, and it does go on the underside of the airplane. So you can go ahead and do that now. Be really careful. It is a very, very snug fit. Remember, balsa wood is pretty fragile. So the propeller goes on the underside of the airplane, and just line it up with that fitting, and so it's really, really a snug fit, all right? If it's really, really snug and you feel like you're having trouble getting it on, you could sand the end of the motor stick a little bit, but I think you'll be okay. That's a properly installed propeller, all right? Now, the rubber band. This rubber band needs to be formed in a loop, because I'm gonna point the camera down at the plane. One end of the rubber band goes into the hook on the propeller and the propeller shaft. It's really easy to find. And the other end is going to be hooked on this little hook that we just made. But, you know, it's got to be a loop to do that. That doesn't do us any good. So the length of your rubber band does matter, okay? But not a whole lot. I think you could really overly analyze this quite a bit and say, oh, exactly how long should the rubber band be? Well, I just kind of eyeballed it, and I'm laying one that I already tied into a circle next to one that hasn't been tied. And you can see I tied a knot, and I'll show you how to do this knot, about 1.5 to 2 inches above the end, all right? And I say about 1.5 or 2 inches, or let's use metric, because I'm a big fan of metric, about 4 to 5 millimeters up from the end, all right? Again, don't get overly upset that it has to be super perfectly accurate. You just don't want to tie the knot way up here, and you don't want it tied just on the very tip. Because what you want when this rubber band is installed, you want it, I'm going to go ahead and install it real quick. It's very easy. Hook it on the propeller shaft. Hook the other one down on this hook we did in the back, and make sure the rubber band goes under it. And I like to kind of slide it around so that the knot is all the way in the back. And you'll see the rubber band isn't what I would call tight. It's not like banjo string tight, but it's also not flopping around. You just want a little bit of tension on it. And again, a little bit more, a little bit less would be fine, but you just don't want it flopping around. All right? So how am I going to tie this knot? And remember, I just want the knot to be down near the end of the rubber band, and I'm not going to get overly anxious about exactly how long it is. Let's see if I have another one I tied. Now this one I tied super short, okay? And this one didn't really work out that well, but just to show you how it's not super critical an exact length, as long as I can get this rubber band stretched out without having to put too much force on the plane, it's okay. Now, this one's a lot tighter, okay? But it's still gonna work. And the whole idea is, again, we just don't want it flopping around, is we're going to wind this rubber band up. And when we let go of the propeller, let me wind it up some more. When we let go of the propeller, when we throw it, and we're gonna talk about that because that takes some practice, the propeller spins. So that's all we're going for. So here's what I recommend. I'm gonna grab the propeller, about 6, 7 centimeters above the ends. I fold it in half so the two ends are down here together. And I'm doing what is called a simple overhand knot. And all that is I just take the ends of the rubber band under the rubber band and then shove them down through this little hole, that loop that's made. And I'm going to slowly tighten it up to make sure that the knot is forming where I want it to form. And this is going to be pretty good. It's going to be kind of down near the bottom, but you don't want to cinch it up too tight right away, just in case when you did your knot, you accidentally tied it in the wrong place. Like if you tied it way up here, okay, you might not want that. But you don't want to find that out after you've made the knot really tight, because once you've made it really tight like that, it's really hard to untie it. So the knot is very loose right now, and I'm saying, wow, that's way too high. I want it down here. So it's easy to loosen it up and just kind of move the knot around till you get it where you want it. Make sure these ends stay even. I'm just going to undo the whole thing. All right? So here's that overhand knot. I'll go very slowly. I'm just holding it like this. I'm making a loop. And I go underneath of this rubber band, these rubber bands, and down through the hole. That's it. It's called an overhand knot. It's a very effective knot. It's great for rope too, by the way. And now I loosely tied a knot. I'm like, that's pretty good. I think I'm happy with that. If you don't like it, you can actually move it by kind of loosening it up and sliding it up the rubber band. And that's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead, and once I tighten this up really tight, don't do this until you're happy with it. That knot is very difficult to get untied. I would say almost impossible. So there we go. Now I have this excess rubber band on the back here, and I'm going to cut it off. because that's weight that's not doing anything. Remember, we always want a plane to be as light as possible. All right, so I'm going to install this rubber band on my plane. Take this other one off that I put on a second ago. So here's the one I just tied. And again, on all of these steps, just take your time. This is not a race. There is no trophy for getting it done first. And then I'm just going to stretch it out until I hook that little hook that we installed, and there we go. So it's a little bit tight without being so tight I'm afraid it's going to break the balsa wood. So there we go. Now we really do have a finished Delta Dart 100%. Yay, completely done. All right. I'm going to pause the video just for 1 second. And if you guys need a few seconds to finish with your knot and get it installed, then this would be a good time to pause it. So there's going to be a real short little break in the video. It's going to seem like a second to you, but it's actually a couple minutes to me as I set something up in the classroom. I'm going to show you how I launch my Delta Dart, okay? So I'm going to pause it. It's a good time for you to catch up before you watch the next section, which is launching the Delta Dart. Okay, hi. So this is a completed Delta Dart. So yours should be completed with everything, including rubber band. All right. Now, launching the Delta Dart. I kind of moved out in the classroom here a little bit. And so you can see how I launch it. It does take some practice, okay? So if the first couple of times you launch it, it kind of nosedives or something like that. That's okay. It's real simple though. The concept is very simple. The execution of the concept is a little bit tricky. It takes a little practice. Now, first of all, what I'm getting ready to do, I don't want you to do. I don't want you testing your Delta Dart inside. There are too many hard things for your Delta Dart to crash into and break. This is balsa wood, okay? If it hits something hard, it can break pretty easily, and they're pretty difficult to repair. So I want you to go outside where there's nothing but soft surfaces, grass, right, lawns. I don't want you launching these in parking lots or driveways, hard surfaces. It can be very hard on your plane when it crashes into the concrete. Find a green space to test it. Now, but I'm testing it in my room because, well, it's really pouring outside and I want to test it. So here we go. So all you're doing is winding up the rubber band. Now, I'm going to come pretty close. Now, the rubber band is kind of in a neutral position right now, okay, right? Doesn't have any winds on it at all. Now you notice as I wind it, of course, you can see it getting wound up. Now what you will notice is I get to a point in winding it when it's like fully wound, and then it starts double winding. In other words, it starts doing, see all those little twists? Well, it starts twisting the twists together. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Come on. There, see that first one right, kind of right there? I'll do some more, you'll see what I mean. And you'll see it is what I call double winding. See those right in here? I know the focus isn't really good. It's double winding. It's doing like a set of twists on top of the twist. So I am telling everybody to launch their Delta Dart, wind it up until the entire rubber band is what I call double wound. It has that second row of knots or twists on top of the first one. And you don't really want to go any further than that. Trust me. I know somebody's out there going, oh, I'm going to wind this thing up for an hour and see what happens. Well, what's going to happen is one of two things. it's going to put so much stress on the frame of your Delta Dart, it's going to break it, or the rubber band is going to break. One of the two, okay? This is about as far as you got to go, as you want to go. So it's double wound all the way. And if I let go of it, you can see we get a pretty long duration of propeller thrust. That's pretty good, okay? That's called double wound. So let me wind it up again. I'm going to do this faster. And so there's the single wind, the single twist, and then the double twist will start forming. You see right there, they started forming. And then I'm going to do that until they're double twists all the way up and down the rubber band. Turn, 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 turn. Now, throwing this thing is tricky. And it took me more than one throw to get kind of good at it, all right? Because what you have to do, and I'm sure it's obvious to you guys, you have to hold on to the rubber band and you have to hold on to the propeller with one hand and throw with the other hand. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna throw with my right hand, all right? I'm gonna hold the propeller with my left hand. But we have to let go of the propeller, right? So timing when I let go of the propeller, let go of the propeller with my throw is the part that takes practice, all right? So I let go and like a half second later, I go ahead and toss it. Now we're tossing the plane with overhand throw like we would throw a baseball or softball or something like that, all right? But we're not throwing it super hard. You can overpower the design of the aircraft. What I have found works well is, and not a real soft little puh, okay? Kind of in the middle, kind of like this. Like if you were just playing catch in the front yard with somebody and you were just kind of lobbing it back and forth to each other. Just something kind of like that, not like you're trying to throw a strike. Okay, just a nice little lob. You don't want to overpower the airplane design and the propeller. So I'm going to have it like this, and I'm going to throw it, but I'm going to let go of the propeller just like a tenth of a second before I throw it, all right? So this is how I do it. I threw it really, really gently because I'm inside. The good news is the propeller, or the plane went up, all right? That means the propeller is providing thrust beyond what I am with my throwing arm, just throwing it. Because if you take your airplane with the propeller, with the completed build, and don't wind the propeller and throw it gently, you'll see it'll go about 3 feet and it'll fall because it doesn't have the propeller helping it out, providing thrust. So this time I'm going to get a little more gutsy. Now when you throw it, again, this is going to take practice. Okay, it's double twisted. When you throw it, you want to throw it slightly up, kind of like when you're playing catch with a baseball. You don't throw it like on a string, right? You don't try to throw it super straight. You kind of lob it a little bit. Well, that's what you're doing with the airplane. You're kind of lobbing it up in the air, all right? Instead of throwing it straight, you want a slight, now you don't want to throw it straight up, so you're kind of throwing it like you're just kind of lobbing it, okay? And let me try that again. It's probably going to smash into the wall. Yep. You heard that. And I had to go fetch my plane. And I'm going to do it one more time. And I think I need to throw it a little bit harder. And that's the thing. We're throwing it and we're evaluating how well it did, and we might make changes. Like, yeah, I'm going to throw it a little lower. I'm going to throw it a little harder. And this time I'm going to throw it a little harder. It's almost double wound. All right, there we go. I'm going to throw it a little bit harder, but it is gaining altitude, which is pretty cool. Whoa, that was good. So I know you can't see it, but it flew all the way over there and hit the door, but it hit the door about 6 feet up in the air, which means it was gaining altitude because I'm not 6 feet tall, okay? So that's good. So if I was outside, where in the rubber band didn't even have a chance to completely de-wind because the flight was abruptly ended by a wall, okay? So that's it. That is it. There is going to be a data sheet that you're going to be filling out as you take your Delta Dart on test flights. That will be in Schoology. And I have a little data sheet I want you to fill out as you go. And this isn't even double wound all the way. Just let go of the propeller right before you throw it. I hold it about in the middle right here. Just a gentle throw. There it goes. Bang, bang. All right? So don't do it inside. Don't do it on concrete. I'm lucky it hasn't broken, but be pretty easy for it to break. Okay, so that's it. You have a finished plane. I've showed you how to throw it. And the next step is to start testing it. You're going to have to practice your throwing technique a little bit. I'm going to want you to do a couple of practice throws so you get comfortable with the timing of letting go on the propeller and just how hard should you throw your Delta Dart to get a good flight. I've tested 2 different airplanes that have been built, and both of them have flown really well. The first one I did actually outside last week. Weather was nice. And it flew about 45, 50 feet, got some pretty good altitude, and then just kind of banked to the left as it came down. It was really good. So I'm hoping you have good luck with it. And that's it. So finish up your planes and go out there and practice with them in a soft surface area like grass is the best, finding green space, and get that technique down, and then we'll do our test flights and we'll record what happens, okay? All right, see you later.